The following podcast is scheduled for no point and is no hold barred. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to podcast. And now, making his way to the mic, coming to you all the way from the beer fridge. He's a campion, sometimes a champion, but we all know him as Cake Champion!
Thank you once again to Chris Buffer, I'm pretty sure, for that intro. Gets better and better every week, even though it's the same. Alrighty, what up, Big Chiefs, and welcome to the Circles and Blunt Pencils podcast. With me, Cake Champion, Circles and Blunt Pencils, the wrestling podcast that has no point. Or does it? You might just have to stick around and find out. Usual routine, as always, dive into a bit of Raw, SmackDown Live, NXT, be talking about Impact this week, and we'll also be going over the Impact special, Code Red, and then piece of cake to follow that, and whatever else springs to mind afterwards. But first, it's time to see what I could find that happened on this day in history, the 9th of May. I'm pretty sure. 20 years ago to the day, WCW Slamboree. I actually watched this, the whole thing. I'll go through some of the matches here. The Flock, dare say they were the Flock at the time, Raven and Perry Saturn defeated Rey Mysterio Jr. and Billy Kidman, and also the Horsemen of Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit in a triple threat tag team match for the WCW Tag Team Championships. Wasn't too bad of a match. I did enjoy it. I mean, you got Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio in there. Some of my all-time favourites from WCW, and also one of my all-time favourites in general, Raven, in there. Bit of a different concept as well. They had 3 men in the ring. Usually when you do the triple threat tag team matches, there's 2 in the ring and sort of tag whoever and blah, blah, blah. Conan defeated Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray was apparently the leader of the NWO at that time, which is something I did not know. Bam Bam Bigelow defeated Brian Knobbs in a hardcore match. I did actually enjoy this match. I'm a bit of a fan of Bam Bam Bigelow, bit of a closet fan. Enjoy some of his matches. And yeah, hardcore is basically just anything and everything. Bobby Heenan was telling Tony Schiavone and Mike Tenay to shut up every time someone was going to get hit over the head, which was pretty funny. Bobby Heenan, what a great commentator. Rick Steiner defeated Booker T to win the World Television Championship. Scott Steiner came out, interfered, and they later on teamed up. Probably my favourite match on this was Gorgeous George defeating Little Nate, Charles Robinson, the same Charles Robinson that is a referee in WWE. That was so funny, that match. I definitely loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Little Nate, as he was known, Charles Robinson, came out with the robe like Ric Flair. Ric Flair even came out with him. He was doing the strut. He had the tan, the blonde hair, doing the woo, trying to chop, doing the figure 4 and everything. And then Gorgeous George, who was with Randy Savage. The stipulation here was if Gorgeous George won, Randy Savage would be reinstated in WCW because Ric Flair, president at the time, had fired him, and then they came up with this match. That was my favourite match. I'll leave it at that. Haven't watched it, go back, watch it, have a good laugh. It's fantastic. Scott Steiner defeated Buff Bagwell to retain his United States Championship. This is when Rick Steiner came out and helped. He helped his brother Scotty win. They had been having like rough patch or whatever. They fixed that up. Apparently, I'll say apparently, or according to everywhere you look, Roddy Piper defeated Ric Flair by disqualification for the President presidency of WCW. Little Nate was the referee in this one, as Ric Flair fired the other referee. So basically, every time Piper would have the upper hand, Arn Anderson, who was out at ringside, would call Little Nate over so Ric Flair could do something dirty, or Flair would throw Piper outside the ring and then have a chat to Little Nate, and Arn Anderson would do some damage on him. But it ended with Eric Bischoff coming out and basically saying Ric Flair was disqualified and Piper was the winner. I didn't see how that made sense, because Bischoff wasn't president, but I don't know. It was 20 years ago, so you get over things. That was a pretty good match as well. Ric Flair is the man. There's nothing he can't do. The way he sells, the way he takes bumps, the way he does everything is fantastic. Sting and Goldberg wrestled to a no contest after the Steiner brothers interfered. And I think Bret Hart came out as well and just started hitting Goldberg with a chair. That was pretty boring. And Kevin Nash defeated DDP for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship after Randy Savage had come in and dropped an elbow on Kevin Nash, causing a disqualification. So Page was still the champ, and then Bischoff came out and said, no, that's not how this is ending. Make this match a no disqualification match now, and Kevin Nash ended up picking the win. So that was 20 years ago. That was Slamboree. Also, what I found was War of the Worlds from Ring of Honor and New Japan, 2016, day 1. War of the Worlds is usually a 3 or 4 day event. It's actually on over these next couple of days, so I look forward to watching them as well, and we'll possibly be talking about them next week. Didn't get the chance to watch this because I couldn't find it, but just get a load of some of these matches on here. Really wish I could have watched this. Roderick Strong defeated Leo Rush. War Machine, also known now as the War Raiders, is it? Or the Viking Experience or something like that. Them, Hansen and Rowe, they defeated Gato and Kushiska, I think I said that right, Kushiska Okada, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Kushida defeated Dalton Castle. The Addiction, SCU now, Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian defeated War Machine after they had beat Chaos before. That was for the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles. Red Dragon, obviously they're Undisputed Era now, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly defeated Jay Lethal and Naito. And the main event was a 10-man tag team match between the Bullet Club, who ended up winning, of Adam Cole, the Young Bucks, Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. They defeated the Briscoe Brothers, Colt Cabana, and the Motor City Machine Guns of Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. So I wish I could have tracked that down, because that would have been awesome to talk about. So yeah, that's what I found for the 9th of May. Those two pay-per-views, so to speak. All right, now let's talk about Raw. Vince opened Raw and said that this Raw would be one for the ages, and it'll be a night that no one will forget. But that was quickly interrupted by Roman Reigns, who actually said that he was going to be on Raw. Put out a tweet saying, just have my music ready. So Roman came out and was quick to remind Vince of the time when he was off, I'm pretty sure, where Vince and the McMahons, all the McMahons, or as Roman put, his spoilt children, were in the ring, handing over the authority to the fans. So Roman basically said, I don't listen to you, I listen to them. And he also said he'll be showing up on Raw more often. Vince wasn't too pleased with this. And he said if that were to happen, it would cause anarchy. And it would just cause the floodgates to open. And then out came Daniel Bryan, the returning Daniel Bryan, his first appearance since WrestleMania. Vince basically was just saying that he's in a bad dream Daniel Bryan was complaining about Mania, and he was basically just asking Vince if the two of them could have an intellectual conversation, but that was interrupted by WWE Champion Kofi Kingston. Now, you will know Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and Kofi Kingston are all on SmackDown Live. Kofi told Bryan that he didn't have to complain to Vince. If he wanted a rematch, all he had to do was ask. Bryan called Kofi's win at Mania a fluke and said that he's an undeserving champion and his title shot was undeserving. And then while this was going on, McMahon just interrupted them and just out of the blue just came up with this idea, and he basically named it the wild card rule, which would allow 3 superstars from SmackDown to show up on Raw and 3 superstars from Raw to show up on SmackDown. But he mumbled a bit or mucked up because he said 3 superstars from SmackDown to show up on SmackDown. But he obviously meant Raw. Everyone knew what he was talking about anyway. And then he labelled himself a genius, which is true. I mean, I agree with Vince when he says he's a genius. McIntyre then came out and said he was here to sort out the situation because Vince had lost all control of what was going on. And McIntyre was saying also that he still had some unfinished business with Roman Reigns, which gave Vince another genius idea. By having 2 WrestleMania rematches for Raw, it'd be Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns and Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. And Vince was just bragging about how brilliant he is, which again, you can't go wrong. Then AJ Styles came out and said it was convenient. This is after he came out, and then it went to break, and then it was just AJ and Vince in the ring. So the others had left. And basically, he was saying that it was convenient that Roman Reigns is now on Raw at the same time that AJ is challenging Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. Rollins then came out and he was marching towards the ring, basically with a purpose, wanting a piece of AJ after last week. Rollins reminded him that SmackDown was around long before he got there, and it's doing fine, and it's still doing fine since he left. Obviously, AJ was saying that SmackDown was the house that he built again, which was true, but then Rollins had to ruin it by saying that it's Raw is Seth's show, Monday Night Rollins. But you could actually hear Vince quickly just grab the mic and say, actually, it's my show. They're having a bit of back and forth, Seth and AJ. And then Vince was basically just, he basically just said, okay, you guys want to compete? That's fine. Like, you can have a match now. So he put them in a match, but not against one another. He put them in a tag team match. So it'd be Seth and AJ versus Lashley and Corbin. They weren't too pleased with this. Basically, each of them was saying, I'm not going to team with him. I don't want to team with him. And Vince is like, yep, well, you're going to. So all of this happened, and it was basically not even half an hour into the show. So it did. It was looking pretty good. I was actually enjoying it. So yeah, it's Corbin and Lashley. They defeated Styles and Rollins. Even though from what I saw, AJ and Seth were actually working well as a team until the end. Seth was behind Corbin. They were both, getting up all groggy, and then AJ was going for the phenomenal forearm, but Corbin quickly got out of the way, and AJ connected with Seth, and then just basically didn't give a shit about it and just decided to walk away and leaving Seth to get beat up by both Corbin and Lashley, I'm pretty sure anyway. Sami Zayn was back again, once again, to bag out the crowd, calling them cowards, and didn't get too far into his promo this week because he was actually interrupted by Braun Strowman. I actually forgot about Braun. He's actually in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, basically what he's doing is he's chasing Sami Zayn through the crowd and, out towards the back. Braun eventually got his hands on Sami Zayn when Sami was cornered at a roller door, and then quickly started throwing shit at Braun and hit the roller door so it would go up, and tried to crawl under, but Braun got his feet. And then he put him inside a dumpster bin, which was immediately picked up by a dumpster truck. So, Braun Strowman was taking out the trash, so to speak, even though it should have actually been the other way around if they were taking out the trash. Ricochet had his Money in the Bank opportunity or spot on the line against Robert Roode. Going back to last week when I was talking about some of the stars that should have been considered for the Money in the Bank ladder match, I was very pissed off with myself that I did not actually mention Robert Roode. He should have been considered without a doubt, but I sort of look at it as it's not really my fault because of the way he's been misused or underutilized on Raw, or just WWE in general. Former NXT champion, goes back to my whole NXT demotion to Raw or SmackDown. It's not the other way around. Ricochet picked up the win, which basically just goes to prove my point. Not that I have anything against Ricochet. I think he will kill it in a ladder match, especially when there's probably like 20 ladders around the place. And then you mix the likes of him with Ali and Andrade, even Orton and Balor. It's gonna be chaos. But Robert Roode or Bobby Roode. It's definitely Robert Roode. You probably still know him as Bobby Roode, but I'll move on from that. Future Raw Women's Champion Lacey Evans dismantled some chick in a match, and she invited the Money in the Bank participants from Raw to ringside to watch. Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Natalia, and Dana Brooke, I'm pretty sure. And after the victory, she told them, that if they do win the contract, what was I saying? If they do win the contract, they will regret cashing it in on her, because that was just a preview of what's to come, not only for them, but for Becky. And speaking of Becky, she actually rudely interrupted this. I actually put down here that this was rudely interrupted by the wannabe badass Becky Toolbelt, or two tool belts, however you want to, but Lacey Evans, the lady, she was too smart and escaped without much damage done, if any. The man is no match for the lady. Roman Reigns defeated McIntyre in their WrestleMania rematch by disqualification, so that was alright, because I think McIntyre, I've been saying this for weeks, still think he should have won at Mania. That's just my opinion, just to build up McIntyre. But McIntyre can't keep suffering all these losses. It's going to hurt him, especially when he's like the next step on Raw to be the champ. It was disqualification when Shane McMahon and Elias showed up to give Roman Reigns a beatdown. And then Miz made the save of all people for the face, the quote-unquote face, the babyface save, the Miz. Doing that, he came down with rage and basically chased Shane McMahon basically out the building. Elias was continuing to beat down Roman, and McIntyre got up. Elias held him up, and McIntyre hit the Claymore, and they sort of just looked at each other, and you could just tell, that's a good tag team. So McMahon was basically running from Miz after this and was hiding, and Miz ran past him. And then Shane quickly went to his limo, but he's a bit skeptical, thinking Miz might be in the limo, so he's opened the door very carefully, and then Miz just attacked him with the chair, but Shane got a low blow in and quickly escaped the building. The Usos and the Revival had a bit of a segment. I don't really know if I actually want to go into this with detail or not, because I don't know, they're just basically making the Revival look like a joke. Something to do with Icy Hot or as the Usos called it, Usi hot. Usos are just like clowns now, pranksters, I guess. Yeah, but you know, I've said it for a couple of weeks now. Revival and the Usos are the two best tag teams, not only on Raw but in all of WWE. I've got the Usos first, and then the Revival second. And now they're just a long way clear of whoever's in third because the bar is split up. Won't talk about that because it'll make me cry. Yeah, it's just a shame to see what's happening with all of that. Oh yeah, and Kofi Kingston defeated Daniel Bryan in the main event to retain the WWE Championship. Not as good as their match that they had at WrestleMania. That's for sure. Alrighty, SmackDown. Oh, also, I think it was on Raw. Vince was on the phone to someone. I just remembered this. Vince was on the phone to someone, talking about this, the wild card rule, and it's like, yes, 3 superstars, and then Lars Sullivan walked into his office and was just staring at him, and then McMahon's like, 4, yes, 4 superstars, and then Lars Sullivan walked away, and as Vince McMahon said, good talk, which was pretty funny. Vince McMahon back on TV. I hope that doesn't last, because he's not the Miss McMahon character from 20 plus years ago. Alrighty, back to SmackDown. AJ Styles started off SmackDown saying that he wanted to be the first Raw superstar to appear on SmackDown under the new wildcard rule, which I was just talking about. And then Sami Zayn had obviously escaped the garbage land, or wherever he was dumped, to also appear on SmackDown. And basically, bit of, garbage jokes. AJ smelling something, saying you stink and have a shower, and Sami Zayn's like, I've had a shower, it's just not easy to get off, and blah, blah, blah. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods then came out without pancakes, I might add. Kofi wanted to know what they were both doing on his show. Kofi's bragging about still being the champ. But somehow I'm pretty sure Sami Zayn convinced Kofi to defend the title that night. Basically saying, you're not going to give AJ Styles a shot, are you? Oh my God, you're going to give him a title shot, aren't you? And then, yeah, a bit of back and forth there. But it turned into a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. That was obviously planned for the main event. Ali and Andrade had a bit of a short match that ended in DQ when Randy Orton came out of nowhere from the crowd and attacked Ali. Ali and Andrade were getting minimal offense, I'll put it that way, on Orton. Before Orton hit Ali with a pop-up RKO. So basically he pushed Ali off the ropes, pushed him up, and then hit him with an RKO. And then Andrade was on the top rope, coming in to give him a flying whatever, and then Orton hit him with a RKO. So yeah, that was that. Obviously, those 3 in the Money in the Bank for SmackDown. The only piece missing there was Finn Balor. Shane McMahon came out to crown new SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions after they had been vacated last week by the Hardys. And he was just claiming that there's only one team worthy to be crowned the champs. And it was Daniel Bryan and Rowan. I know, right? Go figure. But then again, who else have you got on SmackDown? I suppose you got Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. But who else? Is Heavy Machinery on SmackDown? I'm pretty sure they are, but I guess, I don't know. Yeah, but the Usos interrupted. And they came out and said that, Bryan and Rowan hadn't earned the belts. And that every tag team that has held those titles earned the right to be called champs. Even mentioning that, when Shane was a SmackDown champion, him and Miz earned the opportunity and earned the right to call themselves champs and blah, blah, blah. So Shane set up the match for the Usos versus the Vegans for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So Usos versus Daniel Bryan and Rowan, aka the Vegans. Which was obviously won by Daniel Bryan and Rowan. So they are now the SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. Obviously, you're not going to give them to the Usos because they're on Raw. So, maybe they should have just given Usos the SmackDown titles. They go back to Raw. They beat whoever the Raw Tag Team Champions are. I think it's Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins still. And then you just merge in the Tag Team division, basically like the women's goes from Raw and SmackDown. But I wonder if Daniel Bryan and Rowan will change the belts into hemp vegan, like he did with the WWE Championship. After the match, Shane was going to make an announcement about Money in the Bank, but it was interrupted by the Miz. Ran through the crowd like a man possessed. And yeah, he was chasing him up the ramp, but then the Miz was ambushed by the B team of Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, who must be also with the McMahons. And it's a bit ironic because they were actually formerly Miz's boys, the Miz Taraj. Miz fended them off, but was hit by a chair from Shane McMahon, who was actually saying not too long ago, before this happened, about the Miz attacking him with a chair and saying, who does that? It's not right. And then he does it and hits the Miz. So Shane's really, really mastering the hypocrite heel role that he's in. Kofi Kingston defeated Sami Zayn and AJ Styles, obviously, to retain the WWE Championship after he hit Trouble in Paradise on Sami Zayn. He won despite interference from Kevin Owens, who ran down, attacked Xavier Woods, who was at ringside, causing the distraction for Kofi, but Kofi still won, and then Kevin Owens just walked off and basically had the shits or whatever and didn't really care. So that was SmackDown. It was alright. I definitely enjoyed Raw more. Alright, something that I could enjoy every week. NXT. Bianca Belair defeated Mia Yim. And, it was alright. Decent match. The crowd seemed to love it, that's for sure. She won with a roll-up. She rolled up Yim, but was holding onto the ropes for assistance. The referee said, no, you can't do that. And then Mia Yim, pretty sure that's her name, she reversed it into a roll-up of her own for a 2 count, but Belair countered that, and then had another roll-up just on top of her, and Bianca Belair's got this really long hair. Like, it's ridiculous. So she wrapped that around the ropes and was holding onto it for leverage to pick up the win. There was also footage shown of the Forgotten Sons attacking the War Raiders, the Viking Raiders, the Viking War Experience Raiders, whatever you'd like to call them. I think it was outside the Performance Center or something like that. So yeah, something will be happening there. I think it said next week. Matt Riddle defeated Adam Cole in a match that was worthy of a takeover spot. That's for sure. It was a great back and forth match. A lot of offense by both men. Towards the end, though, as predicted, Roderick Strong came down to ringside to show support. But he ended up being a distraction. Riddle made Cole tap out with the bro lock or the bro mission, whatever it was, and then Roddy came in to apologise, and the error came out, and they were sort of just, trying to, sort out the situation. And then, so I think Bobby Fish walked off with Strong, and O'Reilly walked out with Cole, and then you could hear Cole saying, I won the 5-way match on my own. Every time I'm out there by myself, I win. But every time he comes out, I always lose. So he's basically blaming him for that. That's about it. There was something else I can't remember. It was pretty funny. Some dude came back and he's part of his own regiment now, and there's a bit of a unit. Forgot his name, but he even had a one of those muscle massages. It was in an arm lock and then got out of it and was quickly massaging his shoulder. I just can't remember who that was. Hopefully I remember and I'll bring it up next week. But yeah, that match, Riddle and Cole, if that had the crowd of a takeover, obviously there's not many people there when they filmed the NXT, but if it was like in front of a takeover crowd, that crowd would have been just off chops the entire time. So, and it was still a good match. Just imagine if it had the crowd behind them as well. So that was NXT. Moving on to Impact. Last time I spoke about Impact was when I was talking about Rebellion. So Impact this week, Michael Elgin kicked off Impact. He was looking for Brian Cage, but said Brian Cage wasn't there because of what Elgin did to him at Rebellion. And then he was also saying that he's the only man worthy of a shot at the Impact World title. This was interrupted by Johnny Impact, and the two were basically just trading insults at each other, you know, about Elgin's hair because he's bald, and about Impact's balls being in Ty Valkyrie's handbag and shit like that. And then they were bickering about which one of them sent Cage to the hospital. You know, Impact was saying it was because of the Spanish Fly he hit, and Elgin was saying because he's just a unit in the powerbomb that he hit. Impact claims that he's entitled to a rematch, being the former champ, and he says he's ahead of Elgin. Conan then came out and basically saying that he's representing Pentagon now because they are familiar. You know, they're all good now after the LAX vs Lucha Bros match, the hardcore at Rebellion. So yeah, basically Conan is now representing the Lucha Bros, I guess. And he's saying that Pentagon Jr. is first in line for a title match. And Elgin said he has a message for Conan to take back to Pentagon, and grabbed Conan, about to beat him up, but then Pentagon came out, and then Elgin and Pentagon were going at it for a bit while Johnny Impact just watched before security made their way out to separate everyone. And then after all of this, it was announced that it would be a triple threat match between Michael Elgin, Johnny Impact, and Pentagon, and the winner of this will be the #1 contender for Brian Cage's world title. My man Ace Austin, he's working on quite this victory streak there with a win over Petey Williams. Ace Austin, I can't praise him any more than I already have. Future X Division champion, that's for sure. The match he had with Petey Williams was definitely a good match by TV standards, for what I view as TV standards anyway. Sammy Callahan and OVE challenged Rich Swann to a 4-on-4 OVE rules match for next week on Impact. So basically he told Rich Swann that he needs to find 3 partners, which he later did. And obviously because it's Sammy Callahan, it's always going to be a hardcore match. So the partners are obviously Willie Mack, Tommy Dreamer, and Falabala, I think. Falabala. I can't remember. He's basically the sort of like the sumo guy. He's now walking around with Scarlet Bordeaux. Oh yeah. Phoenix defeated Eddie Edwards after a spinning muscle buster driver. So basically it's like the regular muscle buster where you get them on the top rope and then like a suplex, but you hold their legs, and he was just spinning him around, and then instead of dropping him on a suplex, he spun him around and dropped him in front of him. I hope I described that well. I probably didn't. Killer Cross was watching this match from the top of the ramp, and as the match went on, he got closer and closer. Cross grabbed Kenny, who, if you don't know by now, that's Eddie Edwards' kendo stick, and this was irritating Eddie Edwards very much. So Cross went to give it to him. Edwards accepted, but Killer Cross would not let go, and Phoenix took advantage from there. And then after the match, Killer Cross was walking out the back, just laughing his head off. And he had, I don't know if you'd say kidnapped Kenny, but he maybe theft, because it's an item. So maybe he stole Kenny. RVD made his return to Impact and was basically saying that everyone has been stealing his moves for years because they've looked up to him and he's an idol to them. And, you know, there's a difference between imitating a hero of yours that you've seen on TV and stepping in the ring with the whole effing show. Rob Van Dam. Ethan Page interrupted this and he had a couple of chairs and he said, you know, told RVD, you know, don't get too excited. And basically just said, look, chairs are made for sitting. Look, have a look, you know. So he pulled the chairs out, sat on them. Basically, RVD challenged Ethan Page to a match after he actually didn't even know who Ethan Page was. I'm pretty sure he asked him. And then Page told him, you know, he needs to take some of his quote-unquote medicine to calm down. Obviously referring to RVD 420. If you know what I'm saying. So the match is set for next week. And then RVD showed Ethan Page how RVD uses chairs. After this, Ethan Page was, you know, holding his head, going out the back, and Josh Alexander wasn't too happy with him because he was claiming that Page was only looking out for himself and not the North, because the North have a tag team match against LAX next week. Moose then rocked up and informed them that he would gladly replace Ethan Page in the tag team match so Ethan Page can focus on RVD. Michael Elgin defeated Johnny Impact and Pentagon to become the #1 contender. He pinned Johnny Impact following a massive clothesline, buckle bomb, into a sit-down powerbomb. Yeah. And there was probably more. It was a decent match. I felt it could have gone a bit longer, but I'm not disappointed with it at all. Obviously, Pentagon Junior fan would have loved to have seen him win. There was a moment in the match as well where Impact went to hit Pentagon with a Hurricanrana from the top to the outside, but didn't get any of it really. Pentagon Junior took a awkward landing and apparently injured his knee or his leg. So hopefully everything is all right with that. It's the same as NXT Impact. They do a lot of tapings all at once. So yeah, I don't know what the go is there. Alrighty, Code Red, which was Impact Plus special. Obviously, they've now gone from Global Wrestling Network to Impact Plus. Rich Swann retained his X Division Championship in a 6-man match. This was weird because they also did the show with House of Glory. So there was I think there was 3 from Impact and 3 from House of Glory, and I'm pretty sure the X Division Championship was on the line. But the House of Glory, one of their title belts, was on the line as well if they had pinned the champion, whoever that was. Rich Swann was lucky to retain because Ace Austin was there. He was ready. House of Glory champion Anthony Gangon defeated Ken Broadway and Moose in a triple threat match. And Moose just walked out halfway through the match, so he didn't really care. There was nothing in it for him. The North defeated the Rascals, Wentz and Dez. After Ethan Page pulled out the ref during a count, which would have seen the Rascals pick up the win, but Page pulled out Wentz and was trying to blame Wentz for doing it, even though why would he? Because Dez had the pin on Alexander. Page then laid out Wentz, and then he gave Dez a massive crucifix powerbomb while he was making his way into the ring. So he's sort of halfway through the ropes and still managed to give him this massive crucifix powerbomb. That was followed by a couple of double team moves to see the North pick up the win. Tessa Blanchett and Violet, I'm pretty sure, from HOG, defeated Scarlett Bordeaux and Sonia Strong in what I can only describe as a sloppy match. From watching this, the women of House of Glory, they have a lot of work to do. Not quite up to the level of the women of Impact at all. But I dare say they all did their best. But yeah, as long as Tessa picked up the win, I'm happy about that. Michael Elgin defeated Willie Mack in a good back and forth matchup. It's definitely one of the best matches on the card, that's for sure. Took a lot of effort and a lot more offense from Elgin than he would usually use. But after 3 power bombs in a row, Willie Mack could not kick out. And then following the match, Elgin cut off the top rope turnbuckle pad and was going to give Willie Mack a buckle bomb onto the exposed steel. But Willie Mack reversed it and gave Elgin a slingshot into the exposed buckle. And after that, hit him with a stunner. I'll go as far as saying, in watching this match, that if Brian Cage didn't recently win the Impact World title, I would dare say that Elgin would be the champ very shortly, in quick time as well. But I think Cage will hold on to it for a bit, definitely after the whole story of Cage, finally getting the title. But I can see them feuding over the belt for a while there. In a comedy match, this one, Johnny Impact and Ty Valkyrie defeated Eddie and Alicia Edwards in a husband and wife tag team match. Wasn't too bad, Obviously, Johnny Bravo was there with Johnny Impact because they're boys, Johnny squared. Johnny Bravo pulled out the referee when Alicia, I think it's Alicia, had Johnny pinned. The second time a referee had been pulled out following going for a 3 count, I noticed in this event. But anyway, this led to Ty hitting Alicia with the massive red X. Johnny Impact's number 1 contender, I guess, for the X Division Championship. So he hit her with that, and then Johnny insisted to pick up the pin, not letting his wife do it. Because, and the commentary by Don Callis and Josh Matthews in this, just calling Johnny Impact everything under the sun, basically, that they can, is brilliant. Said it before, say it again. Don Callis, in my opinion, best commentator there is in wrestling today. Also in this match, I found something funny. Ty was holding up Eddie Edwards so Johnny could super kick him. But Eddie escaped as Johnny was hitting the kick, but Ty caught his foot, spun him around, and as she spun him around, he kicked Alicia in the face. Johnny was a bit remorseful of this at first, but Ty was just laughing her head off, so that was retaliated by Eddie Edwards, who just gave her a massive big boot. I thought that was funny, because that's me. LAX defeated OVE and the New York Wrecking Crew from House of Glory in a triple threat tag team match for the Impact Tag Team Championships. Not too bad. There was a bit of a scary moment at the end when I think Dave Christ went to do a suicide dive and got his sort of legs caught the wrong way or awkwardly in the barricade outside. But I haven't seen or heard anything about that, so hopefully all is good. So LAX retained their Impact Tag Team Championships, and just also to note, they are actually the House of Glory Tag Team Champions as well. Looking that up, they won it over a year ago. So I don't even know if they're still defending them there or not. Sami Callihan defeated Tommy Dreamer in, you guessed it, Sami Callihan, an OVE rules match. But it basically had everything you would expect. Sami Callihan and Tommy Dreamer. Obviously, Tommy Dreamer, hardcore legend. Sami Callihan making his way as a hardcore legend himself right now. The match ended when Sami had the upper hand, but Dreamer threw some Lego in his face because, Lego is the new thing, not thumbtacks, it's Lego. And Dreamer was about to hit him with the Death Valley driver on a massive piece of plywood, I think. That was set up in the corner, but Callahan raked the eyes of Dreamer. He then hit Dreamer with a pole driver through this thick, massive plywood or whatever it was to pick up the win. And then after the match, there was a lot of concern for the well-being of Tommy Dreamer as the show went off the air. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. House of Glory, obviously being involved, not, up there quite so much with, I guess, just wrestling in general. Also, whoever set up the ring did a terrible, terrible job in this, because the bottom ropes were as loose as anything. Even, I'm pretty sure Moose pointed it out to the referee before his match. They were just really, you could tell they were really loose. And the top one wasn't that much better, but it was a bit tighter. But yeah, it sort of went, top rope was wobbly, middle rope was, right, and then the bottom one was just, I don't even know how to describe the middle rope there. So that was Code Red. Hope you're enjoying the Impact talk, because I know I enjoy watching it. All right, now it's time for a piece of cake. That's right, because when you get a piece of cake, get a good piece of cake, get a bad piece of cake. You get a piece of cake that you like, you get a piece of cake that you dislike. So let's see what I like this week. The wild card rule. I'm probably the only one that likes this, because I've seen a lot of shit spoken about it online. But I actually like it. I think it's a way to tee up things, maybe where there won't be a brand split anymore once SmackDown moves to Fridays, with their new deal on Fox, I'm pretty sure. Don't look forward to that, because then I have to wait till Saturday, really, Australian time, to bring out my podcast. I just have to wait have to wait longer. And I'll have to wait longer for an Elias performance if it's still just Raw and SmackDown. Another thing I liked, Chris Jericho returning to New Japan Pro Wrestling as he is set to take on Okada for the IWGP World title at Dominion, June 9th. I'm pretty sure. So whenever that is, Australian time, I don't know, but I will find out and I will be watching. You can guarantee that. And also, something to note about this, Chris Jericho will be taking on the two best wrestlers in the world today. Not two of the best, the two best wrestlers in the world in the space of 2 weeks, when he takes on Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing, which is in 2 weeks? Is that in 2 weeks? Let me just get my... It is, it's just in over 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks after that, he'll be taking on Okada. Now, the bad piece of cake that I did not like, is where the fuck was Cesaro on Raw? 2 weeks in a row now. Hasn't been seen on Raw. Not happy. Not happy at all. He wasn't even drafted. He was just part of this semi-draft where, we'll just keep it going over the weekend. And he's still not there. And the same goes for Buddy Murphy on SmackDown. I think it's 3 weeks for him, or ever since he was drafted. When he had an awesome match against the Velveteen Dream on NXT after WrestleMania, I think Buddy Murphy was best suited to go to NXT rather than go to SmackDown. But, gets drafted, they make a big thing about it, and he has not been seen since. So hopefully something changes there. And also, what I didn't like, waking up, finding out that Johnny Gargano is still NXT champion. Alrighty, so that'll be it for this week for Circles and Blunt Pencils. Like I said, big weekend planned coming up. Got to watch War of the Worlds. 4 events there. And we'll be talking about that next week. One of them was on today. I haven't looked at the results because I want to watch because I'm pretty sure Flip Gordon was wrestling Bandito. So you just know that match will be off its tits. So yeah, that's it. Obviously, listening to this on YouTube, that's how I get it out there. Hit subscribe. Also follow on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to follow. Circles and Blunt Pencils podcast. I'm pretty sure it is now. Pretty sure I just added in the podcast. Circles and Blunt Pencils on Facebook as well, or it could be Circles and Blunt Pencils podcast, wrestling podcast. I don't know what I've been doing this week, to be honest. But yeah, just Circles and Blunt Pencils. One word. It's not and, it's the letter N. Even on Twitter, CNBP Pod, I think, at whatever it is. So yeah, just like it, share it around. Like I said, subscribe. Coming to you every week, and that'll do it for me, Cake Champion, for the Circles and Blunt Pencils podcast. Damn!